Okay, I'm Andrew Joseph Keith. I'm an artist and sculptor. In this week's video, we're going to be looking at the 10 most hated public sculptures and seeing if we can figure out why these are so hated. Let's get into it. So for the first one, we have Ugly Nefertiti by Ama Rose Abrams. And so here on the page, they have the comparison of this ancient Egyptian sculpture compared with the modern equivalent. And it's I mean, it's no wonder people don't like it very much. It's really bad. But if it can't be good, make it big, as they say in sculpture. So it's nice and big. You can see there's though I guess it's hard to see exactly the size. So this is a part of the article says it's a monstrosity because it's meant to represent one of the most beautiful women who ever lived. So that is kind of the irony of it. And I think a theme that'll run through a lot of these is we just don't appreciate the amount of skill and talent that it took to create some of these old masterworks. And so there's modern artists that think, oh, I can do something cool that's similar to that, and people will like it just as much, but it's almost never the case. Let's see. So the second one, creepy papal statue rejected by the Vatican. And this one, unlike the previous one, actually does look like the sculptor at least knew what they were doing. You know, the face looks like a normal face, proportioned. And then the body has been abstracted into this kind of strange wedge shape. So it's almost like, I don't know, it's almost like the arms are going forward and down, and then it's like a robe that's coming forward. But it is strange. A serious face looking down. But creepy, I think, is an accurate summation of the sculpture. So, and I'll have a link to this article down below. Now, something that is a little bit unfair is to judge a sculpture from a photo. It's just difficult, especially if the sculpture isn't lit well, to judge a sculpture from a single photograph. I'd say with the Nefertiti sculpture, you don't know what the angle of the camera was. It looks like the camera was up kind of close, and so maybe it would look better in person. I can't imagine it being much better. It looks like the features are just not very skillfully done. So apparently the papal statue was rejected by the Vatican, and you could kind of understand why. So this one is that I'm looking at. This number 3 is a little bit more difficult to see why. It looks like it was a masterfully done sculpture. It looks to be marble, and the details of the fabric and the rendering of the features and the hands and face looks to be pretty accurate as far as sculpting goes. So let's see what the controversy is with this one. Let's see. When an 8-foot-tall, lifelike marble statue of Thatcher went on view at Guildhall Art Gallery in London, unveiled by Thatcher herself, there are many complaints. However, no one expected the theater director Paul Kelleher to creep in and whack its head off with a baseball bat. What the heck? Somebody came in and whacked the head of this off with a baseball bat? The hated effigy was then hidden away in the corner at the Guildhall to keep it out of harm's way, but was later offered to the Museum of Granthall in the British leader's hometown, although they felt the statue might be in danger of further violence there too, so it's now off view. What the heck? They're not giving you a lot of information on this one, on Margaret Thatcher's sculpture. Somebody came in with a baseball bat, and somebody's gonna probably come with more information in the comments, and this is the first time hearing about this story at all. But it appears they just didn't like what the sculpture represented, the person, Margaret Thatcher. And so they came with a baseball bat and destroyed it. And I wonder what happened. Paul Kelleher, I wonder what happened to him if he was tried for destruction of, it appears to be public property, or vandalism, vandalism of artwork. In fact, here in my now home state of Iowa, there was actually a sculpture that was a monument to Satan, the Satanic Temple, threw together a sculpture, one of these satanic sculptures, and there was actually a person that came and he beheaded the sculpture, and now he's being tried. So I wonder, he's being tried, they're trying to get him on like hate crimes or something, hate against Satan, I guess, or something like that. And so the fact that the state itself would put up a sculpture to Satan, and this was in one of the government buildings, so just the fact that it went up at all is insanity, because we shouldn't be building altars to Satan and putting those up in public buildings, because that's bad. For those of you that might have an issue understanding why we can put up sculptures of, for example, the Nativity, which is what the Temple of Satan was saying. Well, you can put up these sculptures of Christ. Why can't we put up a sculpture of the devil? And the simple answer is, well, Christ is good and the devil is bad, and we should put up good and beautiful things, and we should take down bad and evil things. And I think that is a pretty reasonable position to have, and we can use our mind, our intellectual faculties, to decide which is which. Interesting story. I wish I had more on that, but we're moving on to the next one. Quebec's toilet demolished after long campaign by locals. And it's not even showing the sculpture. If I can copy it and find this one. Oh, okay, so it looks like it's just a big column with what looks to be like tiles all around it. So it looks like something from Fortnite or something like that. Just a big column that's 3 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's like 3 by 6 cubes, and then another block on top. Yeah, that's a dumb sculpture. It's a dumb sculpture. They probably paid a lot for it. That one's pretty bad. Nicknamed the Cube, or the Rubik's Cube, the fridge, and the aforementioned toilet. Publicly demolished. So Renaud hoped that the sculpture would be reinstalled elsewhere, but the manner in which the work was leveled put a stop to that idea. I think that's a reasonable thing, especially if the artist is willing to come in on his own dime. Let's say that the public is like, we don't want to see this anymore, which I think is reasonable. I think if there's bad sculptures out there that people don't like, especially local communities within reason should be able to say, this is not beautifying our community, and so we have the right to get rid of it. But I think that they should, instead of tearing works of art down, even works that they don't like, I think instead they should explain to the artist what's going on, or if there's some sort of foundation or family or lineage of the artist. Let's say it's an artist that lived a long time ago. They should say, hey, we don't like this here anymore. You can take it, or we'll donate it to a museum. I'm not a big fan of destroying works of art, even terrible sculptures. I don't think tearing them down is the way to go. I think hiring artists to build better ones and then putting up better sculptures is a more productive option. Let's see, pink poop. Okay, number 5. Proposed public gift. So loath that it brought the new legislation. Pink poop. So this kind of looks like a gesture study that I might do, but it's like the start of it but the structure's all off. So it is like a gesture study that somebody did, placing pieces of clay onto a wire armature. I do these all the time, but mine look good, and this one looks bad. And so you can understand why people don't like it. And the pink is off-putting. But it was donated, public gift, so, if you didn't pay for it, let's see, what does it say? Ohad Maromi installed sunbather. The total cost of putting the 8-foot work in place was estimated at $515,000. So wait, I thought it was a public gift. So it was a public gift, but then they had to pay $515,000 for installation. What the heck? Okay, so it wasn't a public gift. So it wasn't a public gift, it was a public grift. That's what it was. It was a grift where they would say, oh, the sculpture is free, but the installation fee will be $515,000. And of course, New York paid for it. So the public outrage so intense that a new bill was put forward to prevent unwanted artwork from being installed in New York again. I wonder if that bill passed. I think if somebody has private property, like let's say that the business owned that little section in front, I think they should be able to put up artwork within reason. I think the community should be able to set standards of, as I was saying before, is it good? Is it beautiful? Does it increase the value of the surrounding area? Or if when you put up this sculpture, maybe the business next door people don't want to look at a sculpture, let's say it's a hotel or something, the sculpture is so ugly that it drives business away, then I think it's reasonable for that business to sue the other business and say, hey, you have to take that down because you're losing us business by putting up that sculpture. I think that is totally reasonable. It's something that I think should be done on a case-by-case basis. But if you own a piece of land and you put up a sculpture or you commission a sculpture and it goes up, if it's a decent work of art, then it'll actually increase the value of everything around it because people want to see the sculpture, they'll go to see the sculpture, and then maybe they'll go to the surrounding businesses, and it's just a benefit to everyone around. But if it's a bad work of art, something ugly, something that people don't like to see, then it does the opposite. It makes things uglier. Let's see. Number 6 is Anish Kapoor's Olympic Nightmare turned into a gigantic slide. Oh, well, at least they... So I guess that's the sculpture, what's behind it. So it just looks like somebody was going to build a roller coaster, and so they built like the structuring, the metal framework for a roller coaster, and then they called that a sculpture. Okay, so it was put in, people thought, like, what is that? And then when they found out it was a work of art, they were not excited about it, and then eventually they turned it into a slide. Like, they put a slide on the bottom and just said, oh, okay, it's not a work of art, it's a slide. It's a functional work of art. So, and I guess it was 114 meters tall, making it the highest slide in Europe. Wow. Well, that's at least an interesting ending. Though it looks like the artist said, Kapoor later said he was pushed into the high-profile collaboration, and it was Boris Johnson. So I guess Boris Johnson is a political figure. I think he's more on the right. People have compared him to Trump, or I've heard that comparison a lot. And so looks like afterwards the artist didn't want to be associated with the collaboration. Okay, number 7 is the cartoonish seagull that horrified people on a local art walk. Seagull Cinderella by Donna Dodson. So this is what? So it's like somebody was playing with Play-Doh, and then they took like a triangle and put that on the head, and then they did like a cylinder and put some lumps of clay for wings and a couple of breasts on it, and then a dress. But then they didn't want to go through the work of like smoothing anything out or making it look good, and so they just called it quits at that point and then painted it. Looks like it could be paper mache or something like that, a very bumpy surface. And something about abstraction, which I'm not against. I don't mind abstracted sculptures. In fact, I really enjoy abstracting the figure. I think the human figure, people make the best artwork, make the best subjects for art, and people make art. But the subject matter, I think people are the most interesting. But I don't mind well done abstractions. And a lot of my stonework, in fact, almost all of my stonework is abstracted figures, and I think of them as gesture studies and trying to find interesting shapes and abstract out beautiful plane changes and things like that with my own work. But when it comes to abstraction, if you're going to do something simple, the more simple it is, the more well done the surfaces have to be, especially if you're going to make it work as a work of art. If it's going to be simple, it has to be that the concept has to be a good concept, and it has to be well done. The more simple it is, the more attention you have to pay to things like the texture, surface, and the way that you simplify the forms. This one just looks amateur. As I was saying before, if you can't make it good, make it big. And this one does look to be very large, so I can see why that one is not a favorite of the public. Okay, let's go to the next one, number 8. Frank Stella's sculpture that shocked art lovers in Seoul. And so this one, it's got like a frame on the bottom. Then it looks like part of a spaceship where the landing gear didn't fully extend and it just crash landed into an area. And then they took that hunk of molten metal, then put it up on some stilts and said that this is a sculpture. That's kind of what it reminds me of. And this is Amabel by Frank Stella. Some felt it looked like an airplane had crashed. So yeah, I'm not the only one making that comparison. And it's 30 feet tall, man. Yeah, 30 feet tall and just plain ugly. Yep, that's an accurate description. 30 feet tall, ugly, piece of metal, but at least it's gotten people talking. And I guess that's the important thing. A lot of the motivations behind these terrible sculptures is just the desire to be avant-garde, is what they would say in my college courses. Avant-garde just meaning it's never been done before, it's a new thing. You know, you're breaking new boundaries and you're exploring things that haven't been explored, and it's going into like a new area. The thing is that most things that have never been done before are terrible ideas. Most creative ideas are bad. It's hard to come across something that is new, that is good. So they'll say, well, if it can't be good, let it at least be new. And with sculpture, you can go, you know, there's an infinite number of potential shapes that you can go for with these sculptural projects. But there's no value. Stop rewarding people that do things, and we reward them just because they're the first to have done it. If it's something that's admirable, if it's something praiseworthy and well done, then yeah, then you should get rewarded for that. But if it's something that just, it's like, yeah, nobody's made a sculpture that looks like that before. But that doesn't mean it's good, and it's not. This is what is rewarded by the culture. So that's too bad. Okay, number 9, the chevron, just too big. A local businessman installed a chevron in his front garden. His neighbors were outraged due to its enormous size. Said neighbors sued and won, meaning that the owner was forced to load the work onto Chicago's Lincoln Park for a year. Yet John Henry's chevron may yet return to its previous domestic setting if the owners manage to sway the courts, in which case the saga will surely continue. So this one, it looks like a blue lighthouse, or like from this angle, it looks like maybe a blue windmill, or maybe chopsticks that are set on top of a giant blue pillars, squared off chopsticks. Just abstract. But I think, he owns that land. He owns the property that it's on. I think he should be able to put it on there. And if I was on the jury, unless the other people could prove that him having it there had devalued their own properties, it's a sculpture that's blah. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't make any statement. It's just abstract shapes. It's not ugly. It's not trying to be a figure. And when people try to do a figurative work and then they fail, that's even worse than something like this, which is just totally abstract. If I was on that jury trying to decide if this guy should remove this giant sculpture from his yard, I have to see evidence that it had actually diminished the value of the other properties. I think that would be hard to prove, so I'd say let the guy have his ugly blue sculpture. All right, and then number 10 isn't a sculpture at all. I thought these were all sculptures, but I guess it's just public artwork. But this is just, what is it? Bad Bowie. It's not a sculpture. Well, then why is it in this list? This is not a sculpture, but we feel it deserves a place in honor on the list due to its sheer level of public ire that came its way. Well, it's not a sculpture. It doesn't belong on the list. End of story. It's a badly done painting, so it looks bad. The face is bad. The thing is, if you're going to do a portrait, you have to be skilled. If you're going to do anything figurative, you have to be skilled. Otherwise, just do abstract. Just do abstract. There's plenty of abstract work. It's blah. It's not good, but it's very difficult to attack it just because it wasn't trying to be anything. It wasn't trying to be a person. If you're going to do something figurative, you have to find somebody that is talented, that can actually do good figurative work. There we have a look at 10, it's 9 hated public sculptures. They lied to us. They gave us a painting at the end. I don't appreciate the deception. Oh, Amma Rose Abrams is the author, not the person that did that first sculpture. So maybe work on honesty, Abra Abrams, and do 9 sculptures and a hated painting, because I was just interested in the sculptures. So I don't even know who sculpted the Nefertiti. I thought it was Amma Rose Abrams, but that's the author of this article. There you have 10 hated sculptures according to Amma Rose Abrams. And yeah, they're pretty bad. I probably would have added some different ones. If you guys liked this video, maybe mention some sculptures that you'd like me to review in the future, or other articles that you might find. I'm working on some projects, so that's why I did this little side video. But it's easy to criticize, it's hard to create. As much as I like to poke fun at other people's bad artwork, it's more important to spend the time creating yourself. It's easy to be a critic, it's easy to sit back, it's hard to actually make something that's more interesting or more impressive or more beautiful than the artworks on this list. And that's what I suggest anybody that's interested in art, try to create things that are beautiful and meaningful and creative and be productive. That's what I always say. Stay creative, stay productive. I'll see you in the next one.